Um, you know what my passion is outside of being a pastor? Gardening. Yeah, I love gardening. When I was a landscaper, when I would get a check, I'm like, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. I mean, I love to do this. So I've studied it in depth for many, many years. At my last church, I had many accounts that I did on my day offs for 19 years. I worked every day off doing landscape jobs. Some people paid me, wealthy people would pay me just to keep weeds off their property. That's it. No weeds in the turf, no weeds on their property. That's all they paid me for. I had a good time. But I love trees because I was a tree trimmer too in seminary, climbing trees with a chainsaw and stuff. So I love trees. I've studied trees. My favorite tree, you may not know my favorite tree. I'm going to tell you what it is this morning. And this has a lot to do with 1 Samuel 31 in case you get lost in what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, okay? It always has a reason. My favorite tree is a crepe myrtle. So how many know what a crepe myrtle is? Praise God for you. Yeah, how many, like, what is he talking about? A crepe what? Yeah, okay, yeah. You're going to be enlightened this morning. So crepe myrtle is a beautiful tree. I love the trunk. It's smooth. It's beautiful. The leaves, you can get, purple ones, pink ones, and lacy little flowers. They bloom all summer long. It's just amazing. So when I re-landscaped my backyard, it took me a couple of years when I bought my home here. The house didn't have a fence. First thing Californians do is fence around the property and freak the neighbors out. Like, what are you doing? It's my property, Built a fence, brought in some commercial grade crepe myrtle trees, planted them strategically, and so the wife can see them and see the beauty all summer. And I love them. This year I had an issue because I know they're prone to different kinds of things. And this year I had an issue I had not seen before. They started developing these little tiny white spots on the bark. And I'm like, what's that? And I just kind of let it go and stopped doing anything with it. I thought, well, big deal. So I went out there at one point and sprayed it with some insecticide and stuff. I thought, well, that'd kill it. It got worse. It started looking like that. That is not supposed to be part of the tree. That is an insect. The insect is called scale. And scale is a little tiny insect that if you take your fingernail and you go up to that little white pod and you press it, because I've done this, you go out there and press your fingernail up against it, it pops and it's like gooey red. It's like a crime scene. I'm just saying, just don't do it. I mean, it's kind of messy. So I'm like, what in the world? And then you touch this white stuff and it just kind of floats through the air. I'm like, this is something out of like some kind of alien thing has attacked my tree. So this is scale. It's an invasive insect. So what it does is it attaches itself to your crepe myrtle and it begins to suck the life out of the tree. Oh, see, now you having an aha moment. And if you don't do anything with it, he invites his buddies. And then there's a whole bunch of them. And next thing you know, you can't see the trunk. And then you're looking around like, hey, I got some hostas around this tree. And this hostas, the leaves are all turning black. My hostas, I got some kind of fungus or something. What's the deal? It's not fungus. It's scale excrement. I'm just saying, it's gross. Gardening can be gross. This is gross. It says black stuff. It's on my hostas. I'm out there pulling it. What's going on? Well, it's from the insects. And there's thousands of them. And they're taking over this one little tree of mine. And I'm like, I don't know, what do I do? And then I started looking at it. I'm like, well, it's hopped over to this tree. And it's hopped over to that tree. And it's hopped over to that tree. Next thing I know, there's a whole nother tree covered with it. And I'm like, chainsaw time. Nothing like 2-cycle engine in the morning. Boom, power. My wife's like, what are you doing? Tree's toast. It's gone. Got to take it out. It's diseased. It's got scale all over it. So I had to address this. This is like a spiritual thing, right? Because if you leave it, it gets bigger. And if it gets bigger with more buddies, it sucks more life out of the tree. And eventually you don't have flower germination like you like. It's not as pretty. The tree gets sick, and eventually the tree dies. Before I get into the spiritual ramifications of this, I do have to stop because thinking minds want to know, because this happened in the last service. One guy's like, I can't even listen anymore. I know what's going on in my yard. What do I do about it? Do you want to know? Yes. Okay, some want to know. So, three-pronged approach to attack scale. One, get a bucket, get some like Dawn dish detergent, squirt it in there, mix it up, make it bubbly, get a stiff brush, and go out and scrub your tree. Yes. Now, I know when I was doing this a couple of weeks ago in my front yard, scrubbing my trees, my neighbors are like, don't worry, he's from California. Don't worry. Yeah. Yeah, I was out there. I was psycho, man. I was like bathing the tree, getting rid of it, scrubbing off all that stuff. And then that's method one. That's what you should do this afternoon. It's a beautiful day. Head out. Number two, buy some mineral dormant spray. All right? Neem oil can work. Mineral dormant spray also works. That's what I use. And you mix it up in your spray, and you go out and you saturate it. Why? It suffocates them. They can't handle it. It kills them. And so I was out, spraying my trees to get rid of it. Number three, in the late fall, which this I guess would classify as late fall or early spring, there are a number of chemicals. You can read my notes online tomorrow. It will tell you what all the chemicals are, their Latin names and everything. You need to buy those chemicals and pour them around your tree's drip line to suck that chemical up into the tree so that when those little things are on the tree, it kills them. Three-pronged approach. It's Trinitarian, I'm telling you. Yes. Spiritual. Now, let's go back to what this means spiritually, because I've always told you, if you pay attention to gardening, there's always a message from God, right? So what's the message? Well, if you're having an aha moment, now I know what's wrong with my tree, well, consider your life. Because that illustration from what's going on with the crepe myrtle, with those little insects, and that little white powder stuff is like their force field. Like, it's like a Captain Kirk, like USS Enterprise, when they put the force field on, Klingons can't hit them. It's like that. That thing is designed to have this little cocoon over it, so when you spray it with insecticide, never gets to them. And so this is a spiritual thing all day long that relates to the chapter in question. Because consider if this particular type of scale is like sin, and it attaches itself to your life, and the sin is called compromise. Well, it was just one. Just one of those little things was in my life. Then 1 became 5 levels of compromise. Then 5 became 15. 15 became 20. And next thing you know, my compromise is now affecting other trees in my life, other family members. Sin is never private, always branches out. See how this works? And if you don't deal with it like David did, confessional, like I wanted to grow up with Christ, so he confessed his sin to God of his compromise. If you don't deal with it, then God's going to deal with you. Because remember Hebrews 12, I think like verses 5 to 11, whom the Lord loves, he disciplines and chastens. He will get your attention. And God is going to try to get the attention of a wayward tree. That tree is going to be Saul. And Saul leaves a life of compromise, and he's got sinful scale all over his life. And his tree is foregone, and God's going to remove him as the king and elevate David. But Saul's life is one of total compromise that's going to eventually cost him not just the kingdom, but his life. His compromise, we're going to review for just a minute, because we've studied this book, for a year. Let's review the compromise of Saul. So God told him to eliminate the Amalekites based upon a command he gave Moses back in the day. So it's been hundreds of years later, and Saul's in a position to eliminate the evil Amalekites for their brutality against the Jews. Did he do it? Nope. He did it to a point and then stopped and compromised. God removed his blessing from him, and he placed it on David. How did Saul deal with that? He didn't like it. So he compromised by being jealous and trying to take out David. He compromised his role as a family protector when his son Jonathan realized that the kingdom was not going to be his, it was going to be David's. And so he aligned himself with David, the next king, not his dad. How'd that go with his dad? Didn't like it. What'd he try to do? Kill his own son. See how sinful scale takes over your entire life? He allowed Doeg the Edomite to kill 85 innocent priests. Why? They, along with the high priest, Ahimelech, he had them all killed. Why? They dared to give the bread of the tabernacle bread to David and his soldiers just because they were hungry. So murder all of them. He compromised. When the Philistine army amassed in the Jezreel Valley, the valley of Armageddon, in a quest to annihilate his army, instead of turning to God, who did he call? This is the test. The lady was from Endor. Were you here or you all knew? Yeah, the witch. He called the witch. Good decision, bad decision? Bad decision. Should have called God, did not call God, called the witch. So when you turn to this last chapter of his life, you see the ramifications of a compromised life. The scale had completely taken over his life of compromise. Where finally God says, you have dragged my name through the mud for so many years and disobeyed me. I'm going to have to remove you. But I'm going to remove you and elevate another young man who will follow me. His name is David. Stark contrast between the two. So as we look at this chapter of this final battle in Saul's life, spiritually and physically, it's a statement of contrast. In the north, Saul is fighting the Philistines. He's not going to be effective. He's going to lose. But at the same time, down in the south, from what we saw in the last chapter, David is engaging the Amalekites. Or the Amalekites down in the south. For daring to attack Ziklag. He's going to be victorious, and Saul's going to be defeated. And so the two men are completely different. One walks with God, one does not walk with God. And so God always has a plan in deep darkness within a nation to deal with evil and elevate the righteous, is what we're going to see in the passage. And I'm getting to chapter 31 in just a minute, if you're still hanging on. If you go back to chapter 28, you will realize Saul in his desperation goes to the witch of Endor at night with the Philistine forces on the ground in Jezreel. He goes by night so they can't see him. He's in disguise. He goes to hear the witch, and he wants to know, what am I supposed to do with the Philistines? She conjures up Samuel, and she's shocked because it's not a demon who impersonates Samuel. Samuel, who had died, who's quite alive in heaven, comes forth and scares her to death. And it scares Saul. And what does Samuel say to him from the other side? He says, verse 17 to 28, the Lord has done according to as he spoke through me when I was on the planet. For the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand, and he's given it to your neighbor. What's his name? David. As you did not obey the Lord, because you have compromise about you, scale of compromise, it did not execute his fierce wrath on Amalek, so the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will give also over Israel with you into the hands of the Philistines. Therefore, tomorrow, you and your sons will be with me. Whoa. Where was he? He's on the other side. He died. He's in God's presence. He said, you got 24 hours. You're going to lose your military. You're going to lose your life. You're going to lose your sons. You're going to be with me. Indeed, he says, the Lord will give over the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines. Why? Because of your inept compromised leadership. Compromise is very costly. So, in the middle of this divinely ordered chaos, God is developing another plan to elevate another young man to the position of the king, the anointed one. His name was David. So God's going to efface the compromised man and elevate the non-compromised man, David. So it all begins with what I call the rout. We used this word last week. It applies to this passage, especially the first 3 verses. The rout, well, that's the military rout of the Philistines against the Israeli army. Chronologically, the battle, as I told you, probably took place when David is fighting down in the south, the enemies of Israel in the south. So this chapter is a chapter of contrast. David listened to God before he struck the Amalekites. He goes and asks God, what do you want me to do? God's going to tell him. Saul listens to a witch, not God. David sought to fulfill God's command to destroy the Amalekites. Saul partially fulfilled that command. David's confessional life led to a life with great options. Saul's self-centered, compromised life is going to lead in chapter 31 to a life of no options. Saul, his regal line is going to be eliminated. David's regal line is going to be elevated. I mean, it's just contrast after contrast between a compromised carnal believer and a believer who humbled himself before God, and God said, I will bless you. So the two men could not have been more different, as you're going to see in this episode. But as I told you, as God removes the first king of Israel, as sad as this chapter is and how it ends, there's always another chapter in God's plan. Nothing thwarts God's kingdom plan. And so you get to chapter 1 of 2 Samuel, you're going to see some great things are going to happen there. But in our story that is before us, it says in verse 1, the Philistines were fighting against Israel, and the men of Israel fled before the Philistines, and they fell slain on Mount Gilboa, which is located on the southern edge of the Jezreel Valley, or the Valley of Armageddon. Philistines, they overtook Saul and his sons. The Philistines killed Jonathan. How sad that must have been. They killed Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, the sons of Saul. And the battle went heavily against Saul as he's running up the hill, and the archers hit him, and he was badly wounded by the archers. So on the valley floor, the Israel military is outmatched by the chariots of iron that the Philistines have. It's like you're in infantry, and they have tanks. You can't win. So they're wiping out the entire Israeli military, and Saul and his sons run uphill, up Mount Gilboa to try to escape. I took a picture last time I was in this area of Mount Gilboa, and I'll just show you kind of what it looks like. And I apologize, this is taken from the restroom facilities. So that's our tour group, not looking at Mount Gilboa. So we stopped there. I'm like, this is Mount Gilboa. I got to take a picture. So that is Mount Gilboa. Massive mountain? Nope. No, it's like a hill. Now, if you're running from thousands of soldiers pursuing you, do you see a whole lot of cover? Not really. There's a lot of open space. But that was his only option. And so he began to run. And as he's running uphill with his sons behind him, I'm sure he looked back occasionally to see how his troops are doing. He sees all of his soldiers dead on the battlefield, and his sons are running behind him. And all of a sudden, a couple arrows hit Jonathan. Down he goes. Then it hits his second son. Down he goes. Hits his third son. Down he goes. And in the woe of the moment, he's probably having a flashback to what Samuel said. Tomorrow you're going to be with me. And then a couple arrows hit Saul. All of a sudden, his breathing's labored. He stumbles. He falls. He's bleeding out, and he knows it. And he sees the Philistines rushing up the hill. Because there's no way to escape hundreds of archers firing hundreds of arrows on a hillside like that. And so you have to ask, when this happens to him, this rout happens to him, did he turn to God? The answer is no. He did not turn to God. He makes a request of his armor bearer instead of to God. Request? Saul said to his armor bearer, that's not David, because David got replaced. He says, draw your sword and do what? Kill me. Pierce me through with it. Why? Lest the uncircumcised, that would be the Philistine, or what they would say in Hebrew, the Goyim, the Gentile. The uncircumcised come and pierce me through and make sport of me. I don't want them, I want to control my death. I don't want them taking my body and torturing me and doing things to me that are evil and then desecrating my body. I am the king of Israel. I will not die like that. So kill me. What did the armor bearer do? The word but's going to tell you it's not going to go like Saul intended. But his armor bearer would not. Why? Well, he's afraid. Why is he afraid? You're the king. I'm an armor bearer. I'm 17. I'm 18 years old. You're the king. You're the Messiah. You're the anointed one. He was afraid to kill the king. So what did Saul do? Man who's out of options, what did he do? Fell on his own sword. Killed himself. Fell on his own sword, lest he be taken captive by the Philistines, who would have done horrific things to him. He died that day. How many words does it tell you in that clause that he took his own life? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Why are you counting the words? Because in Hebrew, it's only 5 words. It's easier to read Hebrew. I'm just trying to tell you. It's just 5 words in Hebrew. Why 5 words? It's extremely emphatic in the Hebrew text. The king died. Talk about a hard day for Israel. I mean, I was alive when Kennedy was killed. Remember the day? I was a little kid, but I remember how sad the day was for the nation. And so he fell on his sword. It was a dark day for Israel. But remember, there's always another chapter God's working on. He's just dealing with the wayward saint here. What did the armor bearer do? When it says in verse 5, when the armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, what did he do? He fell on his sword, and he died with him as a point of honor. And all of his men on that day together, they all died together. Imagine. One of the darkest days in Israel's history. They asked for a king, and they got one. He was tall, dark, handsome, etc. But he was missing a few things in his characteristics that were much needed by the nation that David would have, and he didn't have them, like love of God first above all things. Sad impact. Verse 7, it says, and when the men of Israel who were on the other side of the valley with those who were beyond the Jordan saw the men that Israel had fled, that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned the cities and they fled. Then the Philistines came and lived in them. You might not have any idea where this is, but in the north, just south of the Nazareth, which is on the north rim of the Valley of Armageddon, the Valley of Jezreel, if you on that valley floor, and Gilboa is on the southern rim, if you go in that valley to the east, you'll run into a city called Beit Shean. And if you go past Beit Shean and keep heading east, you're going to run into the Jordan River. And on the other side of that is the modern-day country of Jordan. But over in that day, it was Jabesh Gilead. It was land given to the Israelites through Joshua. It was their land that God gave them. And it says that Saul's compromise not only cost them the army, his sons, and his own life, but the ramifications of his compromise, the scale of his life that wasn't dealt with before God's throne, caused the people to be in such fear across the river Jordan, they just walked away from their cities and ran for their lives. Don't tell me that your compromise doesn't cost anything. It costs you, and it costs people in your family and people around you. when he should have done something about it. What should he have done? What should he have done? He should have bowed in prayer before the Lord and asked for assistance with his compromise, and he did not do that. So they say that courage is courageous. It just takes one man, I think from John Wayne, just takes one man mounted up to go into battle to be courageous, and it's contagious. A coward can be contagious too. And they all fled and they reigned. Now, what is sad to realize, if you do the math of when this happened, Israel was given the land across the Jordan River 365 years before they lost it. So during the time of Joshua, which would have been 1375 BC, that's when the lot was cast and God gave them that land. They had it for 365 years. They lost it because of one inept leader, Saul, because he died around 1010 BC. Sin always has a terrible cost, and it spreads like white scale on a myrtle tree, and your life might be the tree. What should you do? If it's on your tree, your spiritual tree, well, go bow before Christ and say, God, forgive me for this. Restore me and renew me. When Saul dies, we have what the enemy does best. They revel in the moment. It's party time. Verses 8 to 10 says, it came about the next day when the Philistines, they're walking through because they would do body counts to see how many died. They came to, and they were going to strip the slain, and they found, to their amazement, that their archers had killed Saul and his 3 sons on Mount Gilboa. What'd they do when they saw that? Well, they cut off his head. Total victory. Total domination. Stripped off his weapons. They sent them throughout the land of the Philistines. So they sent his head and his weaponry and armor to be showcased to all of Philistia to go, wow, look at how great our gods are. That's what they did. They said they carried the good news of what happened to the house of their idols, to the people, and they put his weapons in the temple of Ashtaroth, and they fastened his body to the wall of the city of Beit Shean. There is absolute irony here, because the book started out with the Philistine army is in the valley of Elah taunting the Israeli army, and they have a big giant that's doing the taunting. Send me one soldier to take me on. No Israeli soldier will do it. One day, a young shepherd boy shows up to bring food and assistance to his brothers, who are warriors, and he sees the giant mocking the force of Israel, and what's he do? He goes to Saul and basically tells him, I know I'm a teenager, but I could totally take out this guy. How are you going to do that? I have a slingshot. Really? Here, Saul says, try my armor on. How'd that go? It's massive. He can't even move in it. I don't need that. I just need my slingshot. He took on Goliath and killed him. How many times did he have to fire a slingshot? This is one time. One time. Who guided that stone? God did. Took out Goliath. What happened to the Philistine army? Well, they ran like mad, and Israel overpowered them. And what did David do? He took Goliath's sword, cut off his head, total domination, Semitic warfare, cut off his foe's head, and then used it as a trophy to show the power of the Israeli God, Yahweh. What's happened here? It's called a reversal. Now the king of Israel is dead, and the Philistines are cutting off his head. Unbelievable. And they call this, in the text, the good news. I read this in the Septuagint. Septuagint is the Greek version of the Old Testament. So when Alexander conquered the known world and began to Hellenize it, and everybody had to learn Greek if you were Hebrew. If you wanted to do business, you need to learn Greek. They didn't know Hebrew as well, so they translated the Old Testament into Greek. That's called the Septuagint. If you read the Septuagint here, the word that it uses for the good news is euangelizo. That may mean nothing to you, it means everything to me. Euangelizo is the word used in the New Testament for the gospel of Christ. Understand the ramifications of this. They thought they had a gospel that the world needed to know. What was the gospel? Our goddess Ashtaroth, there is no goddess like her, goddess of war and sexual fertility. There is no goddess like her. She has enabled us to take out the Israeli king. And that means our gods are greater than their unseen God. And so gone was the fear that they had of God Almighty, right? Remember the fear that they had originally? Because remember, if you go back, if you were here, and they captured the Ark of the Covenant, and they took it to Philistia, and they decided to take the Ark of God and stick it before the temple of Dagon. It was really kind of humorous, wasn't it? They stick it before the temple of Dagon, and Dagon's gone all right. Falls right over. They keep putting it back in there. He keeps falling over. Next thing you know is Body parts are breaking off and everything. God's going, I'm greater than Dagon. So they're like, we got to get Dagon gone. Get him out of here. Send him to another Philistine city. They send him to another city. And God's like, well, I'll attack you with tumors. And so they attack the people of the town with tumors, which I don't know if I told you what the day and time. It's kind of gross. You want to know what it really was? It was hemorrhoids is what it was. I know it's God just strike. Oh, really? You want to mess with the Ark of the Covenant? Here, I'll strike all your men with, And they can't walk, they can't move, they're in total pain. Get this thing out of here. They eventually load it on a cart of oxen and just send it out. And if it goes to Israel, then we know their God is God. And if it wanders off to Nowheresville, we know their God is no God. Where did those oxen go? Right back to Israel. Why? Well, God directed the oxen. See, they have forgotten, and the lost do this. They tend to forget the greatness of God Almighty and strut their stuff. They forgot about God and thought their pantheon was greater. So they had a false gospel, just like you have false gospels in our world today. False gospel. And so what did they do when there was the death of Saul? Well, it's party time because now darkness just won. This is a precursor, this eschatologically, looking at the end, prophetic view of time. This is a taste of what is to come, where it seems like darkness overpowers goodness. And you see the ultimate picture of this of Christ on the cross. If you could have seen in the demonic realm, I'm sure when they hung Christ on the cross and he died, Satan and his minions all high-fived each other, if demons do that. We finally got him, but they had a problem. The king 3 days later, the great Davidic king, well, he resurrected. And they've had a problem ever since. But you get a taste of what is yet to come in this prophetically in the world. Because Daniel says, in Daniel, who was written 500 years before Christ came, the ultimate Davidic king, in chapter 7, he prophesies the coming of the Antichrist. I mean, he's like a Philistine on steroids. And it says, as for the 10 horns that you saw in this vision of this kingdom, these 10 kings will arise, he's telling you at the end of time, there's going to be a 10-nation confederacy. And after them will arise after them. There's coming one different than all the other ones. He's going to subdue 3 of the kings of this confederacy. That's the Antichrist. He will speak out against the Most High because he hates God. And he will do what? Wear down the saints of the Most High. He's going to be given the right to attack Christians. And he will intend to do what? Make alterations in times and in law. They will be given into his hand for a time, times, and a half a time. He's going to have 3.5 years in a 7-year tribulation, at the end of the tribulation, for 3.5 years to attack righteous people. But notice verse 26. But the court will sit for judgment. What court? God's divine court. And his dominion will be taken away, annihilated and destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, the dominion, and the greatness of all the kingdoms under the whole of heaven will be given to the people of the saints of the highest one. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions will serve and obey him. Who's the him? Jesus. Who's he? He's the great David. See, God's getting rid of evil Samuel, or evil Saul. He's elevating David because David's going to be the precursor to the ultimate David, the King of Kings, Jesus. And what Daniel prophesies is that you approach the end of times, the attacks on Christian people will be greater. What's going on in Nigeria? Terrible, isn't it? There's massive genocide against who? Christians. I don't know if you know this, but 70% of all persecution against Christians happens in Nigeria. Shocking. And I'm glad that a stance is being made to support Christians in that country. This is demonic, but this is all prophesied. But it's not all bad news because, well, one day the ultimate Davidic king will show up and the party for them will be over. Philippians chapter 2, Paul says this. He says, therefore also God highly exalted him, speaking of Jesus, the Davidic king, bestowed on him a name which is above every name, that at the name of Jesus, Jesus in the Greek, Jesus, Yeshua in the Hebrew, every knee should do what? Bow. Of those who are in heaven, of the angelic realm, and on earth and under the earth. And he says that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord to the glory of God the Father. You will bow, every person will bow before the feet of the Davidic king one day. When he deals with evil and stops the party of godlessness, he says enough of that, and he stops it. And he says, you will confess me as Lord. There's 2 ways you can confess him. I will confess him that I am so glad to see you. You are my Lord, and I thank you, my Lord. or you will be one who is defeated, who made the wrong choice. And you will confess him because you have no choice. I'm here to tell you today, far better to stand with the first group. And how do you become part of that first group? To become a child of God? Oh, the faith of a child. God saved me, a sinner. What you see in this passage has ramifications for the future. Jesus said this as the great Davidic king about the tribulation. Matthew 24, the Olivet Discourse. Immediately after the tribulation, the 7-year tribulation, of those days, the sun's going to be darkened, the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky. This is going to be scary enough. I mean, all of a sudden, daytime is pitch black, and stars are starting to fall out of the sky like one after the other. Stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heaven are going to be shaken. I mean, it's like the entire cosmos is rattling. And then what happens? Well, then the sign of the Son of Man, which is just a code word for Jesus, he appears in the sky. When they see him break into our dimensionality from his transdimensional spot, then all the tribes of the earth are going to mourn. Why? Well, we rejected him. And now we see he's quite alive, this Davidic king. They will see the Son of Man coming with the clouds and sky with great power and great glory. He's not coming as a lamb now. He's coming as a lion. Why? He's going to set up the Davidic Empire. You going to be there? I plan on it. But when I look as evil advances in our day, as it did in Saul's day, as sad as that is, but never underestimate the fact that God's hands on the wheel, and his kingdom shall prevail. And he told you to pray this way: Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Davidic Empire. He's coming back with his saints. Darkness, but God's working on the next chapter. This all is summarized in what I call the respect of the chapter. What's the respect? Well, they went and they hung Saul's body on the wall of Beit Shean. And I think I blew right by the picture of Beit Shean. Can we go back to the picture of Beit Shean? I don't know how many slides back it was. That one. Yeah, I climbed up here once with Liz. It's a hot hike when it's 110 degrees. Got up here to the Acropolis, and you can look back at the Cardo of the city. It's an intact Roman city that was around from the time of like Joshua. But this is a massive Acropolis where there was temples and Egyptian headquarters up there when they conquered the Jews. But this is the Cardo, which in Greek means the main drag. This is the gymnasium, the caldarium, where they had hot baths and steam baths and everything over here. This is the 5,000-seat theater for productions and gladiatorial events. This is the Agora. I think the Temple of Apollo is right here. There's temples all over the place. It was destroyed, ironically, by an earthquake. God just leveled this evil place. And they went to this place and they hung Saul's body there, his headless body on the wall. I mean, they like nailed it to the wall of Beit Shean, desecrated it. But all of a sudden, there were some men from Jabesh Gilead who were left there who were courageous. And they remembered that not all of Saul's life was a life of compromise, that there was a moment when he was younger when he actually listened to God and followed God. And that happened when they were attacked by the Ammonites. 1 Samuel chapter 11. The Ammonites attacked their town on the other side of the Jordan River. And who came to their rescue but Saul? And Saul did not come rescue them until he first asked God, what do I do? And God said, go, and I'll give you victory. And he helped them break free of the iron-fisted grip of the Ammonites. These men did not forget what he did. You know, when somebody does that for you in war, saves you, you don't forget that person. And so it says in verse 11, the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead had heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, and all the valiant men rose and they walked at night, and they took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Beit Shean, had his whole family up there. And they came to Jabesh on the other side of the Jordan River, and they burned them there. And they took their bones and they buried them under a tamarisk tree in Jabesh, and they fasted 7 days. Why? The king had died, and they wanted to honor the king. These are classy men. These are great men. These are courageous men. They're saying thank you to the king. What does David do when he finds out in chapter 2, or chapter 1 of 2 Samuel? We'll jump ahead just for a moment. What happens in chapter 1 of 2 Samuel? 3 days later, David is going to find out that they killed Saul. Saul's been trying to kill David for years. What's David do? Instead of jumping up and down and going, it's about time. No. He's heartbroken because they've attacked the Messiah, the anointed. David's the next anointed one, and he has class about him. He has godliness about him. And so he calls the nation to mourn the death of the king. That's some kind of man. because David was going to act like Jesus, who did not return insult for insult. He honored those who were in positions of honor. What great lessons can we learn from this? I leave you with one main motif, in case you're lost in all the details, or you're still hung up with the crepe myrtles, thinking, what in the world is going on in my yard? What's God telling you here? Disobedience always leads to degradation. Not a good thing. But obedience to Christ always leads to elevation in your life. Disobedience leads to God disciplining. Obedience leads to God blessing. Choose the latter. Hope you enjoyed the study and God has grown you up in the faith and brought you to the faith. Let's praise him as we stand and sing. And may his richest blessings be upon you. Amen.